Wolf?
Thank you, Brian. Brian Todd reporting. So what might this email mean, and how embarrassing could it be for the White House? Joining us here is the former FEMA director, Michael Brown, and he's joined by his attorney, Andy Lester. Gentlemen, thanks very much for coming in. You did give us this email, Michael Brown, is that right?
That's right, Wolf.
Why?
Well, because I'm frankly getting tired of Chertoff out there every time he testifies talking about how Brown didn't do this or that, or he's trying to act independently. And as long as Chertoff continues to criticize me, I think we need to recognize that I was doing everything I needed to do down there, and this kind of email just shows that while I was willing to take the sword for the president, which, as your reporter said, is the job of a political appointee, I'm not willing to take that sword for Michael Chertoff.
The president, in this email, it specifically says, the person who wrote it says, I wasn't there. This is hearsay from this individual who wrote this email.
Right.
Do you have any reason to know for sure that it was said by the president at this cabinet meeting?
Well, there's no doubt in my mind that it was, because it's a good friend of the president. It's someone who's been with the president a long time. Frankly, I consider him a friend, and that's why I won't give you his name. But yeah, there's no question in my mind the email's authentic. It came off my email that I provided to the attorney for all of the hearings.
But in your giving us this email, you're not really going after Chertoff as much as potentially embarrassing the president.
Well, it could embarrass the president, but frankly, as long as we're going to continue to play this game of every time the administration talks about what worked or didn't work, I'm not going to sit back and continue to take those stabs. I was doing everything I could down there, and as long as we have this debate about what should happen to FEMA in the future, I'm going to be outspoken about that.
Were you just being a good soldier? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. That's one of the jobs that you have to do. But being a good soldier means that the captains and the generals support you in being a good soldier.
Now, Andy Lester's your attorney. Tell me why you wanted to come to this interview.
Well, this email I saw several months ago. It showed something that was a very different picture, frankly, than even I was aware of, because what it shows is that, not that the White House was, as I frankly thought, cowardly and not backing up Mike, but what the White House was actually doing was taking some stories that got started in the media and pushing them until everything got diverted to Mike.
So, in other words, what you're saying is that Mike Brown was being made the scapegoat.
Mike Brown is being made the scapegoat. Wolf, I'm a lifelong Republican. I was on Ronald Reagan's transition team. I'm very disappointed in this White House for doing this and doing it in a cowardly way. They've been doing it all along. They did it back when he testified before the Senate. You may recall they asked him not to answer questions. Well, that's a crime.
The White House says this is an old story. It's an old rumor. It's been reported. You actually wrote about this in Human Events.
I wrote about it in Human Events a couple of months ago. That's correct. It's not an old story. It needs to be out there. The public needs to know.
What we have that's beyond what you wrote in Human Events is the actual copy of this email in which this suggestion is made. And let me read it one more time in case our viewers don't remember. The email says, I did hear of one reference to you at the cabinet meeting yesterday. I wasn't there, but I heard someone commented that the press was sure beating up on Mike Brown, to which the president replied, quote, I'd rather they beat up on him than me or Chertoff. Congratulations on doing a great job of diverting hostile fire away from the leader. Now, you have asked us not to disclose the identity of this White House official. Why is that?
Well, because he's been an incredibly good supporter of mine. He's always been upfront and honest with me, and his name has not been mentioned anywhere at any of the hearings or anything else. And I just don't want to drag him into it. He doesn't deserve to be dragged into it.
But you have to assume the White House knows who wrote this email. They can do a quick check and find out that this individual wrote this email.
Absolutely. That's right.
So you knew it was going to come back to him.
Oh, absolutely. No question.
You feel like you could endanger his career or anything like that?
No, it's not endangering his career. It's just that this is about, I want the White House in general, and particularly Michael Chertoff, to stop dragging me through the mud every time the issue of FEMA comes up. There's a lot of things that need to be done to fix FEMA, and continuing to throw that at me is not going to solve anything.
Your job was at that time, like all people who work for the president, especially political appointees, to serve the president and protect the president from this kind of criticism.
Absolutely.
So you were ready to do that. When you read this email, it's possible if the president did say that in the cabinet meeting, he may have been joking too. He might not necessarily have been serious.
That's absolutely true. But the point is, it seems to me to be a pattern of what the administration is doing. Look, every time that Michael Chertoff, he did it just yesterday in governmentexec.com, talking about whether FEMA FEMA should be pulled out or not, and continues to berate me in those stories. He needs to stop that.
You want him to step down. You want him to resign. You told me that on this program just a few weeks ago.
Right. He either, look, you have the political, he's not serving the president correctly. You have the political tone deafness of the grants, being cut to New York City and other places. That could have been handled so much better. You could have come in and at least told the American public why you're doing that. Let's assume for a minute that's the right thing to do. Why shouldn't we know the basis upon which those grants were cut? And then he testifies in front of the Homeland Security Committee that, well, the real problem with FEMA was not that it was in DHS, but Michael Brown.
What happens to this Michael Brown? What happens to Michael Brown right now? Is he in any kind of legal danger or problem? I mean, you obviously wanted to be here.
No, absolutely not. But here's the thing. Here's what's happened. Mike Brown was blamed for everything. He became the poster boy of everything that went wrong. And then, as you recall, the videotapes came out. And I think actually it was right after they came out that you had Mike on this show. Those videotapes show that Mike Brown was doing precisely what he was supposed to be doing. In fact, he seems to have been the only top-level official that was doing that. The reason I wanted this email to be out there, I wanted it to be public, is because it shows an attitude that has been going on at this White House now for certainly the whole time since Katrina made landfall.
Is it releasing this email, is it part of the rehabilitation of Michael Brown?
Well, absolutely. But, I'm not still on a campaign to do that because, Wolf, the business is going well. There's clients out there. Just yesterday I had a meeting with St. Bernard Parish, some folks from there about things that they need to do and how they might, some strategies they might use. So I think the videotapes and everything else has been rehabilitated. It really has more to do with it's time to stop this issue about Mike Brown when it comes to what needs to be done to FEMA. Let's deal with the facts and the policies that need to be corrected.
David Paulison has been now sworn in as the new FEMA director. He says the federal government is ready for another hurricane, and we're in the hurricane season right now. Is the federal government, is FEMA, your old agency, ready?
Well, I don't think so based on what the people inside the agency tell me, and it really worries me that when I talk to Junior Rodriguez, for example, from St. Bernard Parish, he talks to me about 26,000 homes, 20,000 of which have not been gutted and cleaned up yet, rats the size of chihuahuas down there. Look, in the previous workings of FEMA, we cleaned up ground zero, under budget and in a short schedule. We cleaned up Florida within a good time period. But in St. Bernard Parish, it's still not happening. It needs to happen.
Let me follow up on a GAO report that came out yesterday, the Government Accountability Office. FEMA and the Red Cross disagreed about their roles and responsibilities, and this disagreement strained working relationships and hampered their efforts to coordinate relief services for hurricane victims. This is the first I have heard that FEMA and the American Red Cross were at odds in the aftermath of this disaster.
They were, and I can tell you Marty Evans, the previous president, and I tried to resolve some of those at a very high level. I have since, after leaving FEMA, worked with the Red Cross and given them several ideas of things they might do. It was also a function of, for example, the Department of Homeland Security throwing the National Response Plan out there, and the Red Cross not fully understanding what DHS wanted them to do, and DHS not understanding what the Red Cross should do. So I've given them some advice about what they might do in the future to solve those. But there was a conflict that Marty and I tried to solve that was just impossible to do.
Michael Brown is the former FEMA director. Andy Lester is his attorney from Oklahoma. Thanks to both of you for coming in.
Thank you, Will.
And you too can read the entire September 11th email sent to Michael Brown. Get the White House response as well. We've posted it online at cnn.com/Situation Report.